I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First we have is a review and approval of consent items. We have the September 23rd, 2019 meeting minutes. We have an accounts payable manifest of October 22nd, 2019 in the sum of $1,065,925.28. October 29th of 2019 at $76,617. We have a payroll manifest of October 24th of 2019 in the sum of $61,110.91. And October 31st, 2019 in the sum of $62,446.53. We have a land use change tax map, 15, lot 6.2, $12,000. We have the town clerk, tax collector and treasurer reconciliation. Are there any items members would like to remove from consent? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the items on the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire,
Second.
second by Mr. Schaefer. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0. Are there any other items of business members would like added this evening? Okay, hearing none, we will accept public input no earlier than 6:45 p.m. The first item of business is Kevin Brown, Road Agent, Highway Department update. Kevin, come on up. We're going to have the Mr. Brown and Mr. Brown show.
Gentlemen,
Welcome.
how are we doing?
Good.
You want me to start? You start?
I'll just do a quick introduction.
Sure.
Just for the members out there watching us this evening, Kevin Brown, our road agent. I've asked Kevin to come in this evening, give an update on just general how the highway department, what he's been doing over the last 6 months, and also most importantly on his preparedness this year for the upcoming winter season. So
Great.
I would just let Kevin take it over from here.
I'll try and keep it short and simple. We've been mowing like crazy. We've been
Looking good.
We've been using the New Holland tractor more and more, and as the leaves fall and we get into the winter season, we'll use it even more so it makes less of a mess. We did Rookery Way last Thursday. Looks good up there. We're continuing to work on all the plow and sander equipment. We rebuilt 2 sanders. We're in the finalized stages of putting them back together and tuning them up. I'll jump right into snow also. This year we'll have 10 trucks on the road. 6 are ours. 3 of them are going to be, 4 will be driven by hired drivers. And then we have 4 contract trucks. So as of right now, we have 10 trucks. We still have the availability to put another CDL driver in one of our trucks. And at this point, that'll be a spare.
Okay.
I think we're in good shape. 10 trucks is 3 more than we had last year. We have 5 large trucks, 5 smaller trucks. When I say smaller, I say under 36,000 GVW. They all have power angle blades that'll help us in the cul-de-sacs and get better cleanup. So I say we're in good shape. I have all the contracts here. Troy and I have been working on these contracts. We did guarantee money this year. We went on a basis of a 10 storm, 10-hour events. And that's kind of the basis of what the hourly wage for that is the minimum we're giving. We feel that's a good way to entice people to put their equipment on with us and stay with us so they know they're going to get some guaranteed money. We did contract out town hall, the fire department to Eddie Dalton. He also does all the school, and he does a great job. So he'll be taking care of this facility for us this winter. All the trucks are in good shape. Very minimal amount of money went into the vehicles this year. We spent a lot of money getting them up to speed last year. So I think we're probably in the $2,000-$3,000 range, between batteries and stickers and air valves and such. And all the equipment's in good shape. All the plows have cutting edges to the point where they're ready to roll. Our salt sheds are full. and we still have some money left, so we could probably refill them after, say, 2 storms. We have enough to take on 2 solid storms, till before the next budget. And that's about it. I don't know.
You had some good luck, really kind of like repurposing the old fire utility truck.
Yeah, exactly. The F-350 that we got from the fire department, we put a new oil pan in that, replaced a couple power steering lines, a couple transmission lines to the sum of about $1,500. Put a sander on that. We purchased a sander for that. So that's another complete truck that we'll have on the road at very minimal cost. So that's good for everybody. And it's
Can
a
that
great
plow too, Ken?
I'm sorry.
Can that plow?
Oh, that has a full 8.5 foot V blade in the front of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we used it. We actually had them come out, and they came out for a storm for us last year, and we kind of got
Oh,
behind.
that was the vehicle.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
And they used that one to clean all the intersections for you last year, right?
right. Exactly. Yeah. So it kind of follows the large truck, and that's my idea this year. Is we have 5 large trucks, 5 small trucks. I'll put a small truck with every large. The larges will just kind of run around and hit all the mains, open it up, and then the small ones will clean up. And we've got plenty of sander capability right now. I know we talked about the F-350 that had damage to the bed. We're replacing that with a rack body dump.
Mhm.
So in the summer we'll have a brush truck. It's just a better use than a regular bed. And having it repaired. What else we have? There's so much. We got a lot going on. I mean, it's a lot. There's just Josh and myself. So we bounce around quite a bit. We'll start working on something, then we'll get pulled off, and we'll go somewhere. We'll come back and get back to it. But I guess that's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working really well with Dave over at the recycling, helping Dave. Dave's helping us. Working hand in hand. Between departments, we're helping the fire department out. We're helping rec out. We're helping conservation out. We took trees down for them. We're hanging signs. So all the interdepartmental work is really going well.
You have the Primex, our property liability insurance, is coming down tomorrow, and they're going to do Wednesday. They're going to do a courtesy walkthrough with Kevin. Just really a preventative loss.
Mostly for fire. Yeah. So they're going to come in, they're going to audit us. The fire department, were gracious enough to give us a couple fire cabinets, which we're going to pick up tomorrow and put into the garage so we can put all our combustibles inside the cabinets. That should, keep our insurance company happy. We have updated fire extinguishers. So we've done a lot of work around the shop, cleaning it up. If you come by and take a look, you'll see since the last time you were down there, we've done a lot of cleanup. We have first aid kits, we have fire extinguishers, we have safety glasses. So we have all the safety stuff in measure. It's kind of hard to think of everything you've done, over 6 months, but we're getting there. We purchased 2 new mowers this summer, and we have the new trailer. That went very well. That helped out tremendously with mowing. The New Holland tractor is a great asset. Getting all the larger brush. Let's see. We started a guardrail down at the end of Cranberry, which we haven't quite finished yet. But we're going to finish it off and make a nice little parking area down the end of Cranberry for people walking the bike path. Hopefully in the spring, if we can get some summer help, we asked the budget committee for more summer help. We can get more summer help. We'll get a good mow team going. We'll be able to hit the asphalt and tree trimming a lot more than we did this year. We picked up quite a bit of small hand tools, weed whackers, trimmers, saws. So now we're prepared to hit it hard whenever we need to.
Later on the agenda, you won't be here, but we'll be talking about the proposal for a wood chipper.
Yes.
Brush chipper. I don't know what you
I
call it.
actually
Wood
have
chipper,
the
brush chipper for the
spec for
department.
that.
Can you just quickly give an explanation of, how you plan on using that? It kind of ties into the F-350 being converted into.
Right. Yeah. And that was kind of when we were going to repair the F-350's bed. I went to Troy and I said, something, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have a bed. The bed's kind of it's nice for a homeowner. It's nice for someone driving around. You can put stuff in it. For us, having an open bed or a rack body, especially a rack body dump, makes a lot more sense. Coming from a landscape background, you understand. We'd like to pick up. I have the type of chipper we'd like to get. When Josh and I go out and we cut, you have to cut, take it, throw it in the back of a truck. Then you have to physically take it out. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of space. You're going back and forth, and we have 7 miles of bike path to take care of and all the roads in town. So we spoke about a wood chipper. Troy was on board with that. So somewhere around the $20,000 range, we can get a wood chipper. And if we convert this truck into a rack body, which we already acquired the funds for that, then we'll have if we get a chipper, we'll have a chipper and a chipper truck. And it would just be a lot easier, cut and send it through, and then we can just, maintain, do a lot more, one
More
day
efficient.
with two guys rather than, having to stop, go dump it, come back. It's just a better process.
You'll put a day's worth of chipping or a day's worth of cutting in the bed of the truck as
Right.
opposed to having to run back.
And you make
forth.
one dump instead of, doing 100 yards and having to go and come back. So that's our thought, and Troy's going to approach you on that. How would we pay for that and all that? But that's our idea. That was our idea with the rack body dump rather than fixing the regular bed. And it would just, we could take the racks off in the summertime, be a lot more accessible, for open products, larger stuff, pick up logs or whatever we need to do. It's just one more tool that would make it easier for us.
Bring the chippings to the rec field. That's what they use them for.
Right. Yeah. Something if that's someplace we could get rid of it on the rec fields, or not the rec fields, but the playgrounds.
Yeah.
We
We're going to have a big need up at Jeff Lane for him once we get the play structure back up.
we could build piles and and move it when we need it.
Sure, of course.
Kevin, how often in any given season do you think you would be using the wood chipper?
To be honest with you, Brent, if we had one, we'd use it 2 or 3 days a week for the whole year.
Really?
It's continuous. I mean, last rainstorm, I got called out for 2 trees down. We cut down 2 trees, we put them down the side of the road. All the hardwood went, and then the pine is still there. So we need to still clean up 2 different trees for that. It's continuous. Just drive around town, and as you're driving down the road, look at the side. Just look at the sticks and branches.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at some of the islands, that we have some on the bike path, with the branches. We'd go in and we could clean those up. Keep the individual trees, keep it clean, and clean up all the small branches. It'd be a lot faster to go in and trim, get rid of it, and it's gone.
It would help in ice storms too, with all the trees that come down, go in, just clean them up.
It's just the difference between driving around in a car and driving on a truck. Troy and I did basically a tour of some of the roads, and you drive around in a truck and the branches, even now, are hitting. Once you get snow on them, they're 5-6 feet off the ground.
I get it.
We would use it quite a bit.
The cul-de-sacs too. Perfect. Get some milk.
Exactly. And Brent, back to you. We let it up all the trucks. All the trucks are let it up.
Perfect.
Their insignias, the New Holland tractor has Litchfield insignias. Sorry it took so long, but
They look
it's more
more.
of finding the sign guy.
It's just if I'm always been one, if the town owns it, it's nice that the taxpayer can see that you guys are out there working,
Right, absolutely.
and that it's a town vehicle with town employees, and especially doing a great job. It's there. They can see that, and that's my only point on that.
Oh no, and I'm playing with you. I agree. I agree completely. And we have extra insignias, and we have extra lettering. So if we do acquire another piece of equipment, we can actually do it ourselves.
Do you do red cars too?
I'll do any kind of. I'll do anything. I absolutely do. I just did a red truck.
Oh, good.
We just did white lettering with that.
I for one, want to congratulate you in the short amount of time you've been there. You've done a yeoman's work, and thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no,
Appreciate everything you've done.
I enjoy the work. I enjoy the job. Josh is a great asset to the town. The only thing I can ask is support us with another guy if we can. We did put in for the budget, and I would ask your support for that. Not only just to make it easier and to get more work done, but for safety
It's a
reasons.
huge safety piece to
Yeah,
have that.
and, just 2 guys working, one in the truck, one working, one guy, holding a flag or a stop, stop and slow. It's definitely a safety issue.
And it has to be the top of our list, the safety of our employees.
Good. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Good job.
Thanks for all the efforts.
Thank you. And happy birthday.
The other day it was.
Happy birthday.
I stopped having them at 25.
Sure.
The next item is Technology and Communication Expendable Trust Fund Storage Array Purchase. Mr. Brown.
As you know, when we prepared, when Mr. Brunel presented his IT budget to you, we had 2 capital needs that he budgeted for. One was to finish the security system in the police and town hall building, which is cameras and locking system, the key fobs. And the other one was the storage array. So knowing that at last week, when we were about to meet with the budget committee, we were over the tax cap. I was concerned that these two capital items were going to have a significant impact on our ability to put together an operating budget that would meet the tax cap. I consulted with Mr. Brunel, and he agreed that it would, if we could, it would be in our best interest to purchase the storage array unit now so we can get it purchased, get it ordered, get it installed before the first of the year. I think it's, how old is the storage unit? About 8 years old now, and I'm not sure what the serviceability of it is at this point in time. There's some concern there. We have the capital reserve fund available that we created for this purpose. So I'd like to have the board authorize us to expend up to $25,000 to proceed with the purchase of the storage array. And we would take that out of the operating budget.
Okay.
Well, I'll move to put it on the floor. Move to authorize expenses not to exceed $25,000 from the Technology and Communication Expendable Trust Fund to purchase primary storage array equipment and to waive the competitive bidding purchasing requirements in accordance with Section 9 exceptions of the town's purchasing policy.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire,
Second?
second by Mr. Schaefer. For some further discussion, John, would you be kind enough just to let the public know what the storage array is? Before
Yeah,
we
so
do
just
our
give you a little bit, I'll go back to what we talked about a couple of times. The storage array is what contains all of our electronic data. Today, it supports all agencies within the town, all departments in the town. There are two factors. There were two factors for the request. One was the current array went into service at the end of 2010, 2011. It has exceeded its life expectancy. It's actually unsupportable as of in March or April of next year. So it needs to be replaced because that fact alone. Secondly, we continue to hold a lot of electronic evidence from the police department's perspective, which is live video plus records of materials that's collected and so on and so forth. And that is consuming a lot more and more of that space. And we're at that point where I have to expand it, which I can't because I can't buy parts for it anymore. So I'm sort of stuck in a rock and a hard place. Taking the action now out of the trust fund will allow me to get a head start to get the new unit in service before the old unit goes out of service. If you recall in our discussion, the old unit is not going to get retired and thrown away. It's got a lot of life left in it, but in a secondary function, right? It can't have critical data that I can't get support and get drives and things I replace. We have a need to store backup data. And now that we have a facility next door with a locked closet, that's what it will get installed to carry on for some long-term archive that's not critical, but to give us protection if there's something happens in this side of the building. So that's sort of the background on it.
Perfect, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
Give me an idea of what you refer to a storage cabinet. What is this similar to what we have over here now?
Storage array is it's an electronic disk, basically a hard drive,
Big box.
big file, but it's electronic data, right? So it stands about this big, and you'll see one if you call it back in that rack there. There's like one there now.
Back there. Okay.
Yeah, so it's replacing what's in service that we put in service in 2010,
Okay.
2011.
I'm just trying to figure out what you're referring to.
Yep.
So what you're saying is that you can store the older stuff in the older units, right? You just mentioned that, and you get the new unit will give us more area to store too as well.
Right. So the difference will be live data or active use data, which is evidence
Okay.
and things that they're using will go there. Things that are being done as a backup of that unit.
Yeah.
That doesn't stay. It's short lived. It's there for 30 to 60 days, and it gets deleted and it gets refreshed again. We'll go next door.
Okay, and that'll be a storage area. It's just like a records room.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to understand the purpose of it.
This money's coming from a fund that's already established?
Yeah, Troy and I put together a fund a couple years ago, and it's right now funded at 50,000.
Okay, and so it's no impact on the taxpayers?
No,
Okay.
and that's what the fund was originally created for. We knew that we had capital things coming down the pike, and that we wanted to kind of try to offset if we could.
All right, thank you, John. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0.
two purposes of fill on this one. Newer, and you got a backup area.
Being at 6:50 PM, I'd like to open up public input. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward?
Mr. Shiner.
It was me. Jack Shiner, 10 Whittemore Drive. I'd like to present to the selectmen a petition for a warrant article on elderly exemptions. It has not been changed in over 15 years, and due to the increase in everything, I mean, medicine, medical, that, I know that the town is up for reevaluation in 2020. Some of it has already been done. They've come around a few places and that for reevaluation. And this is only, it's been over 15 years and it's never been touched or updated. And I went and got a petition for it to be put on the ballot this coming March.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Not yet, haven't read it.
For those that don't know.
And I agree with the chipper.
Mr.
I like that idea.
On many boards in the town in the past. It's been.
Jack was a selectman here.
Selectmen,
And
other things, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Do we have to review it? We don't have to review it, do we?
Oh, yeah.
The town clerk has to certify it.
Okay.
Certify all the signatures on it.
That's correct.
Okay, are there any other members of the public that would like to provide input? Seeing none, I'll close public input at 6:52 PM. Next item is the 2020 budget update. Mr. Brown.
Okay. So since the last time the board met and reviewed the budget, I just wanted to bring you up to date on a couple changes that I made to the budget, and you need to be aware of it and make sure that you support that. And also, I wanted to give you an update on what action the budget committee has taken to date. So the first item that I have done, we did get our rates back from the health insurance and our workers' comp, and those rates did increase somewhere between 7 and 8%. All those increases have been put in the budget. I thought the rates actually came in at a really good rate. We had a good rate increase on our health insurance this year. So insurance policies, insurance in general, I thought was very reasonable this year. So we're very fortunate. The thing I really want to point out to you is municipal aid, and we're going to be talking about that later on the agenda. The town is scheduled to receive, I think it's $68,205. We have received that for 2019, and we're going to receive the same exact amount in 2020. There's a difference between the 2 years. This year, we'll be receiving it as unanticipated funds, so the board will have a public hearing and will elect on how you plan to use those funds. It comes with no restrictions. In 2020, same amount will come, but it cannot be considered unanticipated. So we will have to include it in the budget.
Yep.
And,
Like the highway block grant.
like the highway block. Yep. But I just want everyone to be aware, you can use it. There are no strings attached. You can use these funds to purchase items, to help fund the cost of running the town, and you can use it as a revenue source to help reduce the tax rate. So it's unrestricted. What I did was, and you'll hear me recommend this evening, that the check that we're going to receive in 2019, or that we have received, I'd like to see the selectmen appropriate it towards the purchase of a wood chipper and the balance towards paving for 2020. In the 2020 budget, I'd like to appropriate 100% of these funds towards paving. And so what I've done is increase the block grant anticipation by $68,000. I've shown a revenue source of $68,000. There's no tax impact.
Okay.
But that is truly a decision. As far as the 2020 budget, that's a decision of this board that needs to be made. I did present this concept to the budget committee, So, that discussion has occurred. They, I think because the board's not actually voted on it, they didn't take any action. They'll be discussing it Wednesday night.
So when are we going to have the public hearing?
So that's going to be a discussion
Later in the.
later in the evening that I wanted to make sure before I went and scheduled the public hearing that the board is in agreement with on how we propose to spend it.
If I may?
Of course.
So before we have the public hearing, we have to figure out how we're going to spend it?
Mhm.
Well, you've received these funds,
Right.
and we're going to have a public hearing, and I think that you need to disclose on how you plan.
But I understand, but we could do that after, correct?
I think
It's not
important-
part of the,
I think it's important that we notify the citizens.
Oh,
that
sure.
we-
No, no.
we Receive $68,000.
I
and we-
totally agree with
No,
you.
and then we plan to spend it this way, and we invite the public to come and voice support or no support for it.
right, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, it wasn't one of the strings, or was it part of the law that we have to do that? And we don't. It's just the right thing to do for the citizens.
No.
In other words, we could just have the public hearing to accept the money and at another date say that we intend to use it for this. We don't
I
have
guess
to
you
do
could,
that.
if you would. I mean,
Okay, no, but it makes sense. I was just trying to ferret
yeah,
out
you could.
um,
I just think it's
what we're required to do versus what is the right thing to do.
because it's hard to generate public input if you're not telling them what you plan
Understood.
to do with it.
Okay.
So if everyone's in agreement, I don't think we need to have a vote. But if you're in agreement with this concept of the 2020 proposed budget, that we appropriate 100% towards highway, increase the block grant line by the $68,000. Either you can have a motion, or if you all seem to be in support of that.
Mr. Chair.
But I do think we should be on record supporting that action.
Troy, your reasoning for this is because of the conditions and the roads and the added cost?
The reason I'm recommending this is that, as everyone's aware, we used to always have our block grant money, and we had a special warrant article where we raised additional 200,000. The board had, there's no official action, but they had discussed with the citizens that we would back off from the special warrant article to allow growth for the fire station bond, and that we would slowly start bringing back additional funding for highway. A couple things have happened since then. One, 2 years ago, we received an extra payment for our block grant. So we actually received double block grant funding in 1 year. So that helped us maintain or sustain our paving program. Last year, we still managed to do a lot of paving because we had impact fees that we were able to use. In 2020 would be the first year where we're actually relying 100% on block grant funding.
Right.
But with this municipal aid, I think we can go one more year, just use the municipal aid. And then next year, 2021, I would be recommending to the board that we have a special warrant article that's going to raise some additional money for paving.
That would be on 2021. to do that.
2021. This will give you, if the municipal aid is used, both payments in the amount of 68,000, you're getting over $130,000 extra at no cost to the taxpayers towards paving.
And if we go back and look at the document that NHMA put on about all our roads, how does this play into the cycling that they had of when the roads, how they rated them A, B, C?
Mr. Brown and I spent the summer working with the National Regional Planning Commission and doing our paving program. So we're actually right now are in a good position where we still have some reclamation work that we need to do, but on the most part, what we're looking at is really getting ourselves almost into a maintenance mode where we're doing a 1-inch overlay, we're doing crack sealing, we're doing some spot milling. So you have a road that's in decent shape, you can do a 1-inch overlay, but there are certain sections that need to have 1.5 inches of pavement removed, and you fill that in, and then you do your 1-inch overlay on the top of that. But there's still,
We don't have a lot of roads that need the complete reclamation. We have
it's a
few,
couple
but-
small cul-de-sacs we're concerned
Small ones.
about that.
But we could get away, not get away with, we could do a lot of topping, a lot of maintenance that would, prolong it and get us out 5-10 years. Save a road from having,
There's, down there on Pilgrim, there was Standish.
Mayflower and
No, Mayflower got done. It would
Mayflower.
be
We saw the top Mayflower.
Heritage and Standish.
We have the top Mayflower, we have the top,
In most cases,
Oh,
the Mayflower, that area there, but most you get into the older parts of Nessicate, the cul-de-sacs.
right, it's mostly the southern part of the town
Okay.
because the north.
North is relatively
in the
new.
town with the water issue.
Water issue, yeah.
Well, really, yeah, the northern got redone, but the southern part.
But we're in good shape with that, we don't need a lot of reclamation. We do need quite a bit of, overlay and maintenance. We're gonna get into crack
Shoulders.
sealing, quite a few roads.
Shoulder work, that kind of
Yeah, we
stuff.
need a lot of shoulder work, and a lot of gravel taken care. We need a lot of gravel next year.
Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. I will make a motion that the Board of Selectmen hold a public hearing on the acceptance of the October 2019 municipal aid money of $68,205.54 and accept the recommendation of the town administrator to apply the funds accordingly to a wood chipper and the balance to 2020 pay.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemare.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Mr. Schaefer. Any discussion?
I think anytime you involve the citizens, it's a good thing, especially when there's money involved. So, good job. Good idea, Troy.
I think it's wise to, I want to say the word transparency is important for everything.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0.
So that's, so we'll update, the budget has been updated with that, with the municipal aid added to the 2020 budget. Last Wednesday night, the budget committee began its review and starting to make some adjustments. They made approximately just over $50,000 worth of adjustments. They ran out of time. They will be meeting, they're holding a special meeting this Wednesday night, and primarily they'll be taking a look at highway, police, and fire. There was a cut that was, I think, a $6,000 decrease that was made to the IT budget. And Mr. Brunel will be attending that or providing input because it's, there's our data lines and the information just wasn't provided to them. So they made the adjustment, but they did state that they reserve the right to replenish the fund if we provide the information. So even though the big cut, $50,000 sounds like a lot, 25,000 of that was the reduction of our continued effort of updating our key system and camera system, both in the police and town hall. That was removed. At this point in time, I'm going to wait and see where our budget ends up this year. And it's possible if we have some unexpended funds, we could discuss trying to make this project happen in 2019. If not, we may have to have a discussion about whether we want a warrant article or not to accomplish that capital project. Another cut that was made was $15,000 towards the legal line. It was a fairly substantial cut. Reason being, of course, we have the PFOA allowance, and just due to the lack of activity and looking at a 3-year spend rate, they felt that a $15,000 reduction wouldn't have an impact on the selectmen's ability to continue our efforts with protecting the town's interests in regard to the Saint-Gobain contamination issue. The other items were, really based on an analysis of the 3-year average spend rate.
On one of the items, the town meeting one where it was 250 suggested cut, Terry Briand had said to me today that they need to add personnel for the elections per state requirements. So she's going to ask that that gets put back in. Because we have to add people and more people, means more food.
Yeah, more elections, more
Yeah,
food, more staffing.
Yeah, because the people are there all day through the election from start to finish and beyond. And we have to feed them. make
And
sure
it is a
they're alive.
stipend too.
There's 4 elections too next year, right?
It's
Right.
4 elections. as
4 or
well.
5.
They're busy.
That was a lot.
There's a lot.
2020, you got the presidential.
Well, it's the New Hampshire primary, town meeting,
4
the
elections.
state primary, and regular election in November.
So it's 4.
She's gonna need the help.
So the technology was pretty much was all the future access, which was what, 25,000, then 6,000 in other line
Is
items?
it 6,000? Do we know why the budget committee removed that?
That was strictly based on
3
an
years.
analysis of a 3-year spin rate. And so, like I said, we just weren't able to provide information as to, to explain why we needed the amount that we budgeted. So
So
I actually anticipate that when we provide the factual information, that they'll reconsider
oh,
that.
fine.
Okay,
So it's
yeah.
just, okay.
John's gonna go to the next meeting to help explain it.
Oh, that's great. I feel
Okay.
better about that.
Yeah.
then. So
All
it
right.
wasn't, it was only because they didn't have.
They didn't know the data.
Just everything that
The information to
everything
vote
they
on.
did was just based on a 3-year average
Okay.
spin analysis.
All
And
right.
it was a tool that Mr. Cutter was using as
Right.
a way to try to identify areas of
Mhm.
whether or not the funding was really needed or not.
Okay. Well, I mean,
In some cases, it
Mhm.
came up as, hey, here's an easy $2,000 adjustment. But when we talked about, some reasoning why it was needed, the budget committee was very understanding
Mhm.
and supported what the selectmen had proposed.
well, that's a reasonable
Yeah.
way to
It
do
was
it. Okay.
it's a good exercise. I have no problem with the exercise.
Excellent.
But everyone needs to understand, it's just a tool that's being
Sure.
used. And
Yep.
there's a lot of other factors involved in why, a spin rate ends up being the way it is and why we're proposing what we're proposing.
No, as long as they're flexible with that, I think it's a great tool because you do need to analyze your expenses and could probably be used as a tool throughout the year to look at your highs and lows and when you do have your largest expenses. So,
One of the other
For attending Wednesday.
Yeah, one of the other things is that when you get into IT, no offense to Troy, but it's one of those things that not everybody has a glimmer in. The other thing that I feel is very, very important, when you go to with you, Troy, like we used to do before, the department head or the department person needs to be with you to support or help you understand, or if they have a questions technical, it helps them understand it better. So I think it's important to have them there.
But you do invite every,
We'll have police,
I'm not
fire,
saying-
Department head comes.
and highway.
no, he does invite everybody though.
Yeah, if I can just address, I was there at the presentation and I did present the budget. And I also explained the increases and why the increases were there. The meeting that Troy attended, I wasn't there. That was the meeting they made their votes, right? So
Right.
I don't think Andrew Cutter was there at that meeting. So he may not get all the background, which is fine. And I'm more than happy to go back on Wednesday to deal, talk it through and make sure I understand it. Because I already cut it based on the run rate and based on what I thought the budget's going to come into. And I think I'm still short, but I didn't want to come in at the full amount because it's a new year, right? I'll blend it someplace else if I have to. Because I think if you remember that line originally increased, I think about 13 grand. I went back and forth with Consolidated a bunch and cut it down to where it was. I was comfortable with it, knowing that I potentially have a savings here and there. It's going to happen. It could cover a couple $100 here and there, but I'll go on Wednesday. We'll take care of it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It wasn't just like a cut and slash type meeting, and it was actually a very good meeting, probably the best one I've been to all year. It was very open, very good discussions on all sides, and they were very accommodating.
excellent.
Very good to hear. Are you good there?
That's it.
Any other questions?
No.
All All right, next on the agenda, I believe, will be warrant articles. Mr. Brown.
All right, so I have prepared a draft warrant. We do this every year. I usually take it upon myself, working with department heads and what I've heard from boards and committees, to put together warrant articles and bring them forward to you folks. So, you might be hearing about some of this stuff for the first time this evening. I'm just feeling that it's my job to bring these forward to you. And then you need to, start that discussion on what you want to support this year. The one thing I do want to state is that we are, the budget committee is looking to have warrant articles finalized before December. I think that's when they're going to be reviewing warrant articles. So we don't have a lot of time left. And so we really need to take a real serious look at these and not waste a lot of time. If the board feels that they're not going to be supportive of a certain article, let's have that discussion and let's get it removed. If there's an article that's missing, let's bring it up this evening. And I'm sure that,
2 to 3 more meetings before we have to.
well, again, November is going to be like
November 11th
December
this
where
year.
we've got some issues. But so let me go through. This is a draft. I don't have all the dates in the beginning, deliberative session, voting dates. I'm not sure if those are correct. I'll be working on.
Sure you want to say this out loud?
The operating budget obviously is not set yet by the budget committee, so that's just a placeholder. That's article number 2. Article number 3 is the purchase of a fire engine. The fire chief has told me that he is estimating the new fire engine would cost $650,000. And we're looking at a 5-year lease purchase, just due to the fact of the aging fleet, that if we spread the purchase out much longer, you're going to be into the position where you're going to need to purchase additional equipment. So that's where the 5-year lease purchase came about. We could do a longer lease term to help decrease the cost. So I think, 5 is something that would put us in a good position so that when the next piece of equipment needs to be replaced, this debt will be taken care of. But as you can see, this is an impact to the citizens of $136,939 per year for the next 5 years, total of $684,000.
Could you look just so we can talk about what a 5-year would be versus 7?
Yeah, I can. If you click on quote, there should be a link there.
The only thing with the years going out, if you got 7 years before you can replace another piece of equipment. And by then, your older equipment is going to be really old.
If you look at the factor, it's really.
So we got a quote on 5 years and 8 years. So an 8-year schedule would be $88,937 per year over a period of 8 years. Now, there is 2 different ways you can structure a lease purchase. The first page here is in advance. So you date that you deliver this, that we start payments would be in 2020.
You pay.
Or you can pay in arrears, whereas there would be no money that you raised in 2020. The first payment would be in 2021. So if you scroll down, there is that option of doing arrears. And you'll see the cost does go up because you're going to be paying more interest. But a 5-year term would be $140,000 and an 8-year financing would be $91,000. I think that if we're going to ask the question, the citizens either commit to purchasing it and they start committing to making the payments, not waiting 12 months before making the first payment. But I just want you to be aware that there is that option.
See 158 versus 162.
Personally, I don't know that I'm comfortable putting this out this year. I
I would agree.
I did have an informal discussion with the chief. I happened to be at a meeting with him. There's absolutely a necessity to start replacing the equipment. It looks great, but you know, some of these that were bought when I was there, it's getting time. I think if we give the taxpayers 1 year to inform them of exactly the condition of the equipment, get it out there, you know, not unlike what we did with the fire station, so that they can, you know, put a plan in front of them so they can see exactly what the need is and make sure that they're aware of it before next year. I think I'd be so much more comfortable doing that at next town meeting than this one.
I'm going to agree with Brent
That's
on
only
that
my
one.
opinion.
And I'm going to go one step farther on being here in town and being here all my life and look at the runs and how we run stuff. There's been people who have asked me, do we need that many trucks? Okay, that question has come up. Okay, and I was going to bring it up this year if this came on. So is there a study to say that we do need that many trucks based off the type of runs we have and how we get to the calls and stuff like that? Because we've had trouble just getting the trucks there, okay, in the past because of the timing or there's no one around. Mutual aid has got there before us in a few of them. I'm saying the bigger calls, okay? That's when the trucks really get worn, when they sat there and run for a great period of time. And Brent knows that. I ran them for years too. So I have to agree, I'm not comfortable at all for this year, this to be on. I think we got to look and evaluate the needs, I think, a little bit more.
I agree, and I think the fire chief has, and I think you'll see, if I'm not mistaken, Troy, and you probably have discussed this with him, I think he is looking to replace more than one vehicle with this one. The next truck he purchases, I believe, is going to be for two vehicles.
Take two out of service.
Take two out of service instead
I
of.
know that he has, unofficially discussed that with me, that there could be that possibility where we convert one of the tankers and one of the engines all into one
Right.
piece of
Tanker
equipment.
engine, correct.
And the reason that he's looking at that as a possibility, he's not committed to that,
Right.
is because we have had the addition of fire hydrants. So
Yeah,
our
right.
need for water, has decreased
Yep.
a lot since the additional hydrants.
So I just want to tell you, Kevin, that is being
I
discussed.
understand what you're saying, okay?
It is being discussed at.
I think he ought to come in and discuss it with us as well in public. The
Oh, yeah,
taxation
and
help.
he intends to.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like the tanker pumper theory, getting in a call, getting to do something quicker, and then the other guys will come in with the backup of the hoses, okay, for the hydrants now.
The only thing, Kevin, we got to be careful about policy.
Oh, I
versus-
understand.
Versus funding, that's all.
Yep.
All right.
As our subject matter expert, thank you for your input on
And
that.
like I said, this process, I've gone through it many times. If the board doesn't have a will for an article here, I mean, I think it makes the process a lot easier that it's removed sooner than later.
I really don't have a will for this one. I'll say that, okay?
Well, then a
I'm
motion
helping
can
you.
be made this evening if
I'll make a motion, if it's all right, Mr. Chair,
Of course, we have a motion by Mr. Lynch.
to hold this off for a year and reevaluate it for next year.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Leary. Discussion?
I think we just did.
There's two things. Looking at the needs for a truck, and also, we also have the new firehouse is gonna come on the tax burden, and we don't want to get hit twice. Okay? That's what the people are gonna say. So I really think that, like Brent said, we may be dropping a truck in the future too, so that study's gonna help this out. Okay?
Do we as a board want to discuss it with the fire chief prior to removing it?
I think we set the budget, and I'd like to think the fire chief will be okay with this, and, you know, as long as he feels that we're going to support him next year and go ahead with it. And what do you think, Troy?
I think the fire chief knows the condition of his fleet, and it would be irresponsible of him not to bring this article forward. Because if we get ourselves into a situation where we start seeing major breakdown of the fleet, people are going to start asking questions, how did this happen? Obviously, the chief is the expert in this area. He knows his fleet. He knows his department needs. That's why it's here before you this evening. So I can't speak for him, but we have a lot of things on the agenda this evening where we're talking about establishing a formal capital improvements committee. And I know that there's going to be a lot of discussion when that committee is created. You know, we'll be taking a look at the entire fleet for the fire department and other needs, as well as other departments. And we'll start seeing how these things fall in place. So I think he's brought this forward because he does seriously believe he needs it. The discussion needs to start. If he were postponed one more year, we have a capital reserve fund available to repair the pumps. We do have mutual aid. You know, our fleet's old. We can't ignore it. We're going to be needing to upgrade our fleet. And fire engines, with my experience, is not something that you get approval in March and you go down to the local Londonderry Ford dealer and purchase one. You actually have to order these things, and it takes anywhere from 12 to 16 months before it's delivered. Then the department needs to learn how to operate it. So, you know, these things may not be actually in service for a good year and a half once the article's approved. So we're at that point where, you know, if it's not this year, next year, there definitely needs to be a commitment to start replacing that fleet.
Well, I think the motion does speak to that it's only 1 year, and you know, next year
Evaluating
we
the whole purpose.
certainly intend to support that.
Okay, any further discussion?
Anybody out there got anything?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 500.
Okay, so the next item is something we've heard Mr. Brunel talk to the board about. There's still some work, and I know that Mr. Brunel is still meeting with the departments and the contractors and developing a final plan. But I did discuss with Mr. Brunel, he's comfortable with showing the figure of $750,000 this evening for the public safety communication system. So this would be, as you've heard, the replacement of what we have, installing new equipment. John's here. This is more of his expertise. If the board wishes to have him give a quick update so that people listening as well can understand what we're talking about here. Again, what I've done is put together a lease purchase in the amount of $750,000. We spread that out over 5 years. It would have an impact in 2020 of $158,000. If we spread the leasing out to 8 years, you can reduce that cost.
John, if you'd be kind enough and give an update to all those listening on what the whole project's for.
Sure.
Thank you.
So going back to, I think when I originally brought this to everyone's attention, we've been working on a replacement system for the last couple of years, trying to figure out what's the best way to address communications between police department, well, communications for the police department, fire department, and highway. And we've finally come to a plan that makes sense. It's a combined system that takes care of all of our 3 major departments. In addition, also potentially gives the school district the ability to jump on the same system and save some money overall for the community. We haven't talked to the school district about it yet, so they're probably the first I heard of it. But anyway, when I came originally, we were talking about $600, $700, $800,000. We went back, we kind of fine tuned it again. We looked at some of the other options because we met with the chiefs and some of the department heads. Kevin, I don't think you were there. Talking about the needs, make sure we had everything covered. And we kind of discovered a few holes. Like we have communications problems in the schools. Right? You get into school, no one can talk to anybody. Cell phones don't work, nothing works. So we had to try to address that in the system. And it was easy because it was just added little blocks. So what we're bringing forward is that system. And going back to the vendor, we're working on, some finalized, drawings and stuff like that so we can present to the public to understand what's going on. But just know that this is a whole system. It's not just, one department. It's replacing a system that currently is 3 separate systems today that has the average age of 22 years old. The primary systems, which is in the police department and fire department, are at that point where the vendor that supports us, Motorola, is a major vendor, but the local provider here is unable to get parts if something does fail. Over the last 2 to 3 years, I've spent more times than I want in the Verizon building up at the North End or here or something like trying to find parts to replace the system. So we started talking about this when I was on the board with the budget committee and kind of making sure people knew it was coming. But that's what this represents. This is a replacement of a system that served us very well. Again, like I said, 22 years is the average system. We have to make some decisions soon. The concern I have is what happens when we wait for approval, obviously, which we have to do. From the time we get approval to the time the system goes operational, it's anywhere between 6 to 8 months. That's to build out, acquire all the equipment, build up towers, get all the locations, powers, all the permits, all that stuff. So we're looking at 6 months at minimal to get an operational environment. So March, we're looking at it finally going into service if we get approval, September timeframe, something like that. So, yeah.
John, will this allow communication with all departments?
Yes.
Like even all the highway vehicles?
Yeah.
Something we don't have right now.
Today, you have to switch frequencies. We got to come on. There's a bunch of that kind of incompatible equipment. In the case of the highway department, there's a bridge built into the system where they can have their private talk channels, but they can easily dial up into the police, and police can easily dial up into them. Same thing with the fire department across departments too. Those additions were very small adds, but it made sense in the day that we have where we have departments that need to talk to each other.
So this is speaking basically right back to public safety. Because right now, I think you said, Brent, there's some hollows that fire can't even call out of.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
And
can I speak to it for a second? We had an accident down on 3A just by Pinecrest a month ago.
Mhm.
And we were on our way with detour signs and stop signs before we got the call because we were able to listen to it and hear what was happening. Yeah, and, we didn't converse with them, but we knew they were going to need something.
Mhm.
So we loaded up the trucks and we were actually on our way prior to, because we had the ability to hear what was going on around town. So that's just a small example of, it does help with safety.
well, and
Departments.
not only that, in the middle of a blizzard or a severe
Weather
storm
condition.
with an ambulance call, more times than not,
Need a plow truck.
just to get the ambulance into a driveway, you need a snowplow. Or even up the street, if it's a severe storm, which you haven't been able to get to it yet, at least you would know immediately that the ambulance is going a certain place. You could dispatch one of your trucks, meet them, and
So this
I think
system,
that's a fabulous idea.
yeah, this system attempts to address all those issues. We've improved coverage to the north. We've improved coverage down to the river. We've improved coverage to the south. It's predominantly made up of one big system up on Colonial Drive, using basically when Penachuk put that tower and they said we'd have access to it. We're going to call them on that favor, get access to it. And that will be the primary transmission location. And then there are 3 other remote sites, including here, to help fill in the gaps.
The highest point in town, they finally got to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Question, John, you said something about the schools, and to me, that's more important than a lot of other things in today's world. How they need to communicate as well. That to me is a nice thing if you get them on board. And I'm going to say it a nice way, to see if they want to chip in. I know it's saying.
well, it's the same tax dollar, right?
Yeah, I
So
know.
at the end of the day,
know.
so the challenge with them is I think they've already started trying to improve their system, and I think they're in they call it DMR system. This will allow them to actually use the DMR system and be able to talk to school, and I'll basically open up their communications path a little better.
Good.
Again, we haven't had time to socialize with them because I haven't got the full build plan yet and the full spec, because that's the piece we added on, because what we were looking for was the ability to be able to expand the highway department's coverage without increasing the overall cost. The DMR equipment's a lot cheaper than sort of we use for the police and the fire because they're a different system. But it gives us a lot of flexibility with little handhelds and that kind of thing. So once I have all that full package, the next step would be to start talking to Penachuk to make sure we get that access correct. Talk to the school because we're asked to put a tower in the school, which I know they've heard about that.
Yep.
The tower could be multiple use, but we got to put a tower somewhere. And there's the other tower sites behind the old town hall where there's currently today there's I think a telephone pole that would get replaced for a rail tower because we have to put something down there to cover that gap area. We don't want it associated with the fire department because I don't know what's going to happen with the fire. We know the town hall's not going anywhere. That was the purpose for doing that. It also kind of put behind the trees too. And the pricing that Troy shared with you was when I went back to the company and said, what's our financial options? What's the worst case? They said, we're pretty comfortable with that price amount. And that's what we're using to kind of construct that warrant article. Okay. I hope before we actually, warrant articles approved and all that, we have a locked price, but that's what we think it's going to be.
I would agree with Mr. Lynch to get the schools on board because that's a critical area for safety.
Yeah.
Do whatever we can to work with them. And
Yeah, and that was the urgency there. That was a priority for both the fire department and police department. As we have SRO officers inside, they can't communicate out.
Yep.
They can't get communicated in. Same thing with the fire department. If they go in for a fire alarm or that, they're on the opposite ends of the school. They can see each other. They can't hear each other on communications. So this will help improve that issue.
As long as the cell phones don't work in the school, it's better.
They don't work either, right?
Okay, good.
Correct.
The kids are not on them.
Doing the work that's done.
So that's sort of the background for the ask.
Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
thank you.
My will be to keep this one.
Oh,
I would agree.
I think it's a better, long-range thinking.
well, we could take
And
a
the
vote on
equipment
it
is
later
very
in the
important.
Final amount.
Of course, yeah. I was
Yeah.
just giving out
Yeah.
my will
Yep.
moving
Yeah,
forward.
and like I said, if the board supports going forward with this, another question is, are you in favor of a 5-year leasing program or an 8-year leasing program? Again,
But
I'd
before,
like to get I don't, for these types of things, because we have other items like a fire truck one day that kind of, I hate to spread that debt out too much.
How long are the systems good for? Well, do you anticipate?
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be looking at replacing it during the lease, right?
No,
Okay.
no. But some people, like general public, could come forward and say, why aren't you leasing this for half the life? But
Yeah.
again, I just think there's, between the school and the town, in the next 10 years, there's a lot of capital needs that
Yeah.
it's going to be discussed.
So let's get the
The
numbers.
more you
right,
spread
that's
things
the-
out, you're just piling on more debt.
Yeah, we're used to that.
We were debt free.
I think every homeowner knows everything about that one.
Yeah. All right. So Article 5, Human Services and Health Agencies, this would be the same article we had last year. And so I placed the $25,000 amount that we raised last year in there as a placeholder. Later this evening, we'll be talking about actually establishing the committee that will be reviewing the 19 requests and come forward with a recommendation for the 20 requests.
Okay.
This would be raised from taxation, just like last year. General Assistance Expendable Trust Fund. This is coming to you. It was suggested by the Budget Committee chairperson. A couple of the other committee members actually expressed support. In the past, it's come up before, and I've been initially I can remember opposing it at a Budget Committee meeting because I think it's easy for everyone to sit here and say, well, we should have a fund for this, and we should have a fund for this, and we should have a fund for this. And so I think you really need to be careful about going out and creating just too many funds for what ifs. But in this case, what we've seen is, this is a tough general assistance. We never know what to expect. And we've shown based on history that we are taxing residents for a what if. And, sometimes you only spend a couple $1,000s, but yet we tax them for 10. So I think the thought process here was to create an expendable trust fund, try to keep it funded at a healthy level. It would operate the same as we do for our buildings maintenance funds or our equipment and maintenance funds, so that the money's there when you need it. And if you don't need it, we don't need to be taxing people for it. When it drops below a level where we're not comfortable, we try to replenish the fund. So I'm recommending that we do consider creating a general assistance expendable trust fund, that we establish the fund with a $10,000 fund balance. And this one would come from taxation.
Question I have.
I think it makes sense.
On this, you're proposing, this is what I'm gonna say is assistance, anybody who needs something, right? You're referring to that.
Somebody who might be under-resourced. for a
I
certain time.
understand. And over the last 3 years, it's been low because the environment, the working
We've
environment
been
is
a
good.
great economy. and
It's great.
Not had.
If
the
it was
demand.
2008 again,
Last.
okay, if I remember right, in 2008, things changed. And we got really expensive here, okay, on that line. I think that's when everybody says, I understand the purpose of this. We're basing it off like last year. How much have we spent this year in the last 3 years?
Right.
Basically nothing. Okay. But it all depends on the economics. That's where this number comes from. So that's all. I like the idea of the trust fund, but after the idea, if we have to expend more than that, what will happen?
So we would still carry in the operating budget, we would most likely carry a $1 line item for general assistance. So that if this fund was depleted, we would start to overdraw the operating budget line. Because by state law, the
We have to
selectmen
do
are
something.
required to provide assistance for folks in need.
Mhm.
Whether there's funding or not,
Exactly.
it's a state law.
That's why I'm
So
asking
that's
the
what,
question.
that would be my backup plan.
That's what I'm looking for, okay? It's nice to do something, but in reality, we're going good now. Things could change in a year.
Right.
Thank you. It's not a bad idea this way, Troy, but I understand why you would say no. In past years, I understand that happening to you.
I
Okay,
think now the time would be to build it up.
Yep.
So that when times do get tough, we have it there and we don't have to hit the people.
you got it.
With an idea at that point.
Fully agree.
Keep it.
Keep it.
Here's a new one. I'm not sure if anyone's heard this discussion yet. Darapon milfoil treatment. There's no dollar amounts listed here. We'll be talking about this item a little bit later in the agenda this evening as well. My thought process is that if in fact the board is supportive of the discussion this evening about conducting a survey of Darapon, actually determining how much milfoil and other invasive weeds we have growing Darapon, doing that assessment, and then the contractor can give us a quote of what it would cost to try to remove a good percentage of these invasive weeds. These programs usually are spread out over a 3-year period. They may come in, do a chemical treatment the first year. The second year, they may do some spot chemical treatment and do some hand pulling. The third year, hopefully they're not using any chemicals, and it's really down to some manual hand pulling or machine. There's a lot of different ways, but it would all be determined in the initial assessment report. Apparently, this was discussed, 5-6 years ago, and there was some funding that was put towards this effort. It's from what I've been told, there only looked like we did 1 year of implementation. We didn't follow it through. So this article is written so that with the intent that we would raise all the funding that's needed, and it'd be a non-lapsing article, so that we, if the citizens approve it, they're committing 100% to the program, because otherwise it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
So it's a placeholder for now.
I dealt with this in Northwood, all the lakes. Also, there is state funding available
There is.
for milfoil
Yep.
oil control. But if there is milfoil in their pond, if we don't do something, it'll kill that pond. It is a very invasive and weed, or whatever you want to call it, species. And I fully support that, because we have a resource there that, I mean, eventually you'll just, if you let it go, that's it for the pond.
And this is brought forward by the Rec Commission. I failed to mention that. They discussed this with
I was
conservation.
going to ask you who would administer.
It's not conservation because it is a rec facility. It's a
Right.
rec pond. So that's why conservation's not, they support it, but they're not involved in it. And again.
I don't think we want to lose that facility.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it later. This is a placeholder for right now. The painting of Old Town Hall. I have been asked by the Historical Society that we at least try to address two sides of the building. You know, I need to consult with a professional to see if it's worthwhile.
Subject matter expert?
When you're down there with a crew, is it worth, spending all that time setting up and doing just two sides, or do you knock
That's
it all
my
out,
thought.
do the whole thing?
If you're going to do it, protect the whole thing.
Yeah. So I don't know anything yet about.
I think Yankee tradition. Yeah, I'll say that.
Just do one side.
Do one side, next year do the other. The Yankee
I
tradition.
had a smart neighbor, and he used to paint one
set
side of his
up.
house a year, and that way he didn't spend the whole summer painting his house.
That's right. Do it. I just
Do
did
it
the
all.
barn.
Do it all.
Do it all.
One side.
The resident expert, do it all.
A lot of people do one side a year.
Yep.
And it never ends.
The barn. I just painted the front of the barn.
There's
I
another
will paint the side
asset
next year.
that the town has that's irreplaceable. That was one of our first meeting halls. And I think it's 1700s,
Yeah, it is.
1851, or in any event, it's more than 150 years old. And if we don't protect it, it's a cultural and historical resource, and we own it. And we have to take care of our infrastructure. And I absolutely agree that we need to do that.
There is a quote back in the day when I had it painted once. It's in the paperwork in my in the old office there. And I had a number, an estimate, okay, to give you an idea of what it was, okay? Because we had it painted once completely, okay, by a gentleman. I don't know where he is now, but he gave a quote to the Historical Society and they went with it. So it's been done. But what happened is that they used caulking, if I believe it's, am I correct, Bobby?
What?
They smoothed it out when they scraped and they used some caulking some areas, and that's why you're seeing the discoloration in the painting.
I
You know what I'm
wasn't
saying? Yeah, I
I
know.
had nothing to do with it.
Well, I didn't see it being done, but that's what I saw. Okay.
Now, Bob, is it more costly because it's lead paint they use? 'Cause it
There,
was there.
well, no, actually, there are areas of the building that are lead, mostly on the trim. But a lot of the siding has been replaced over the years. So at worst, it's oil, which is not really outlawed like lead is.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'll work on trying to get a cost estimate on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I gave Mr. Lynch one a few years ago, didn't I?
It's in the book. It's in the stuff. I remember keeping it there. You don't want it? No, it
I
wasn't
didn't
you,
want the
Bobby,
job,
did
but I gave him a price.
I know you didn't want them.
Okay.
Considered,
So,
could be considered.
One of
a
the things I
conflict.
just wanted to point out to you for the next couple articles, we're changing, or at least I'm recommending that we change the way we fund the article. And so the next couple articles, I'm recommending that we use the unassigned fund balance to purchase these improvements or this equipment. If you recall, the auditors came in, gave us a report. We've had several good years, and every year we've funded some capital projects and needs. And this year we turned in well over 200,000, I believe it was. So right now for this year, 2020, I'm recommending that we spend 175,000 from the unassigned fund balance. So you need to be aware of that. Article 9 would be to purchase a plow truck. And working with Mr. Brown, this is a plow truck. We were going to be asking for two. We felt it would be best actually to ask for one. We're changing the truck. We're going down in vehicle weight so that an operator would not have to have a commercial driver's license to operate this type of truck. It's the best I can describe it is something bigger than a 1-ton, but smaller than the Freightliner we just bought 2 years ago. So a lot of departments I'm hearing are actually turning to these types of equipment because they're having the same problem that we are finding people with commercial driver's licenses that are willing to drive for you on a seasonal basis. So this article would purchase that type of vehicle, type of truck. It would fully equip the truck with a plow, a wing, and a sander. So estimated cost is $100,000, and we would take this from the unassigned fund balance, $100,000.
I'll provide specs. I have the specs on what we're looking at, but I'll provide specs to everybody.
Is this like an F-550?
It's larger than a 550, but it's smaller than the Freightliner, so it's under the 20.
Did they give it a number? Or
It's a 5500, like a Chevy 5500. Okay, so
Okay.
it is 4-wheel drive. It has a Duramax diesel, Allison automatic. We will go with the front power angle plow and a wing.
Oh, nice. It can take a
And
wing.
a sander. Yeah, it can take a wing. So it will be able to do what the larger trucks will do. It just won't have such a large, it won't have a 6-yard sander, it'll have like a 4-yard sander. It'll just be a little bit
So it'd be
smaller.
great for secondary roads.
Yeah, exactly. It'll still be bigger than our 450
Mm-hmm.
running down. But it'll have the versatility of the 450, but it'll still have the size to handle it, and it'll last longer because it's a larger frame. It is a larger truck. It's a medium duty truck.
Well, flexible too.
So would that
Reuse.
replace
Yeah.
like the orange one?
That's the intent. The orange ones are 2000 and 2001. We got them used for $8,000. And
Yeah, it was good while
they've served well.
they served well.
But I've gotten one driver for the orange truck. I just landed him, and like I said, there's only one that's still a spare because I can't find CDLB drivers. I can get laymen, I can get firefighters, I can get carpenters who can drive a plow truck, but I can't get CDLB drivers. It just hard to come by.
Good idea.
Okay, and Article 10 would be to replenish our building systems trust fund with $50,000. This would come from the unassigned fund balance as well. The reason that you're seeing us, or my recommendation to replenish this fund, we have just over $50,000 in the fund today. But when we replace the heating system at Town Hall, you're pretty much going to delete the balance of that fund. So that's the purpose of this. This is where I really like to use the unassigned fund balance for. What we've been doing in the past is when we use those capital reserve funds, the following year we replenish them with the surplus that we received for the prior year. The Technology Communication Expendable Trust Fund, $25,000. Same thing here. We just approved spending $25,000 from the fund. And this would be to put, reestablish the fund balance at $50,000. Article 12, Community Center Design. The Rec Commission had asked, and this language may not be finalized yet. It's just a placeholder. But the Rec Commission wants to have sort of a vote of the community, a sense of the community, a non-binding vote to see if they're interested in having the Rec Commission investigate the need to construct a new community center to replace Town Hall. So the one legal question I have here is, we have the no means no case. And, when you ask this question, if it comes back and says, no, we don't want you to investigate this, is the Rec Commission not allowed to actually, talk about this and as we're going through capital improvement planning and
That's a good
facility
legal
planning.
question, especially if
It's a very good question, and I think
if it doesn't involve funding.
Yeah.
My original thought was, well, it doesn't involve any funding, but then it's saying, wait a minute, that's not what it says.
So
Like, uh-oh.
I deem it to work with
Yeah.
legal counsel to see if there's probably some language we can add so that this is a non-binding advisory article.
Right.
I really
That'd
think,
be good.
the way I read it, okay, to see if the town will vote to direct the rec commission, okay, to investigate the need to construct a community center, okay, to replace the old hall, is to be a non-binding, but to set up a group to investigate it, okay? It's not like a money expenditure, it's setting up a committee. That's basically what you're asking, to set up a committee.
Yeah.
To do it.
But the
So
vote
they
comes
say no,
back,
you
if the
can't
vote comes
investigate
back
it.
overwhelmingly no.
Right, then you-
So, for the next 12
do
months,
it.
is anyone even allowed to even have that discussion at the rec commission level?
Right, that's the problem.
And he
No
asked for a
matter
special
what.
election.
School didn't.
Stymied, so you're probably better off,
Coming up with some verbiage that.
right,
it
make
doesn't-
Back to
sure
a special town
legally,
meeting.
or else don't ask at all, just have them do it. The board could
Board, we could.
Well, that's-
unofficially ask
That
them
is the other, yeah.
Yes.
I
to
think-
go ahead and
We
then,
could just rewrite it and ask them 6 months later.
Can the board itself put
So-
together a committee?
So I will consult, I haven't
Investigate
consulted
it?
with legal counsel, but that's another option. I think that they were trying to get a general sense of the community, just to gauge what
Yeah.
kind of interest
Before they start
there might
putting
be
efforts
out there.
Why are they trying to replace Town Hall?
Well, that was what they sent to me, but I don't want to sit here and say that that they're even considering tearing down Town Hall. I really think their intent is the town interested in having the rec commission look into building a new community center, something that
I
would,
think that's how they're just looking.
something that would complement Town Hall. But I could be wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they
Well,
think
also
they're going to tear it
That's
down and build a new
Well, I
one.
mean, I'm on the rec commission, right? And that's exactly what we're looking for, is just, we're trying to figure out,
Input.
Talent Hall needs a lot of work. It needs wood flooring, obviously the heating system and stuff. And it's used a lot, and it is used a lot. And it's, 14 hours a day. So we don't really have a community center per se. So we're figuring maybe this would be a good opportunity to look into creating a community center for every aspect of town, not just anybody that plays sports. And that's what it comes down to, folks.
Okay.
And it also speaks back into the capital improvement committee that we're gonna start.
'Cause I know they've done like comedy shows there and they used to host town dances there. I mean, they've used it for a lot of things.
Yeah.
It'd be a shame to see it go away.
No, I think it would just be, I think the use of it would probably become less, because it's getting to be,
The floor.
the flooring needs to be fixed underneath and replaced. You can't sand the flooring anymore. You can
can't.
only wax it. So,
It's got the waving, and the floor is a crawl space underneath it, okay? And a lot of piers have been put in to repair it over the
Over the
years.
years, yeah.
So it's a matter of what, you can probably keep the shell and do something with the floor, okay, with today. Take out the floor and fill it up and pour concrete in it, you know what I'm saying? There's options, there's so kinds of options. This is just discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. You already knew this guy was coming
What's that?
by petition?
Oh, no, that's just a place.
Okay, I just want to throw it in.
But I do have to add that now. Yeah. Okay, so that's the article. So I think that what I'm hearing from the board is you're pretty comfortable with all these articles, removing the fire engine. Got some work to do in the language for the community center.
Fine tune the value for the communications.
And yeah, so good direction.
The only question I would have is with the unexpended funds that we're using to maybe fund a couple of these things, can we use them to maybe fund a couple of the smaller items on here as well?
Well, that
Save
was.
some impact on the taxpayers.
So I was tempted to do that
Yeah.
for the welfare expendable trust fund.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
It just, and then at some point I just needed to sort of draw a line and say, okay, I can't,
Okay.
take any more.
Okay. Yeah, because you.
I don't know what it's going to cost to paint the town hall, but if I just had to throw a guess out there, I'm thinking $25,000-$30,000.
I think I quoted you. Didn't I quote the town like 20 grand?
Yep.
Was that what, about 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago? So it should be.
7 years ago, it was about a
So
quarter.
It should be in that neighborhood.
So it's possible.
I figure it's going to be in that range.
That should get you a top-notch paint job with some kind of a guarantee.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want to do it.
So I'd be, what I need to do is I need to go back and take a look at the audit, consult with our auditor, because maybe the town hall, we could consider that as well.
Part of it.
Just,
Anything we could do to help would be,
it would be the most we've
Very
ever
good.
used, but, and then I think going forward, I really think that we're gonna be turning less money back.
Yeah.
And, we wouldn't have that ability, but.
Okay, that was just a question, I'm throwing it up.
So definitely I'll take, let me revisit the unassigned fund balance. Make sure that we're staying in that recommended range of retention, and then, we gotta get some quotes on those, on the on the old town hall, and we'll consider the, welfare, the general assistance. I'm
General
sorry.
assistance.
If you want me to, I will go look at the town hall again and come up with a revised estimate for you guys, if you want.
No,
It's
That'd
up
be
to you guys.
fantastic. if you could.
Without any binding,
Just kind of give us a ballpark
Yeah,
of
just-
where it should come
yeah.
in.
okay,
I need a budget estimate.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Does it include coffee?
okay, the next item on the agenda is the old fire station reuse. Mr. Brown.
Okay, so I have, and I think it's possible that I'm still going to be getting more feedback from staff. But I did send an email out, got a good response back from boards and committees and departments. So here's a list of things. Primarily, I don't think it's a surprise to the board that it really looks like the best use of the old fire station is storage. And as we know right now, the community television folks, they're using the bathroom facility. They have no bathroom facility at their building. And so they've started using that. I think they're very pleased that they have that ability now. They have access to the building. They have asked that we consider taking the town records out of the building that they're in.
Mhm.
And that they're looking at the ability, having the town records out and maybe moved into the old fire station would give them the ability to expand into that space. Maybe there's a way to construct a bathroom or whatever it is that they need. If they were able to do that, then we could possibly even, winterize the building and use it for actual cold storage. The town election trailer, the town clerk, they really would like to be able to just back the town election trailer in there, leave it in there. That way they have access to it year round. They don't have to be climbing over snowbanks through the ice and stuff right before elections, trying to figure out what they've got for inventory. It also has, I think it's patched right now, but the trailer itself, it's not in the best shape. The roof's been patched, and there's always that concern that it could leak.
Okay.
And we've got our voting booths, we pay $3,000.
New too, aren't they?
They're brand new, and they're $3,000 for a setup of, four units. So pretty expensive. The highway department, what they really kind of interesting, the way Mr. Brown was explaining to me is kind of a rotation seasonally. So during the winter months, we take the landscape trailer and put all of our mowing equipment on the trailer, put it in the storage, leave it there, getting it away from the highway department operations, the winter operations, get it away from this, the sand and salt and all the activity that's going on, and put the New Holland tractor in there in the winter. The highway, the roller, we just got that up and running. We can put that in there. And then in the summertime, take some of that stuff out, bring it up to the highway garage, but take some of the equipment that we have that's really just dedicated to snow removal and put that down at the old fire station. Just get it off the site. It's just really managing more space, preventing, accidents from happening. And by having that space, like Mr. Brown explaining, when they're doing a mowing and at the end of the day, when they load all the mowing equipment on the trailer, if the plow trucks weren't in the storage facility, they could literally just come back to the highway garage, leave the trailer hooked to the 1 ton, back it in undercover, everything's protected. The next morning they come out and they just take off, saving yourself 45 minutes a day of loading equipment, securing it. We spend more time cutting. So I thought that was a good idea. The fire department, they right now is storing their rescue boat and the rescue tower. They still need the ability to do that as of right now. The police department, they have a firearms range equipment trailer and a police ATV trailer. And they'd like, again, to put that undercover. And I have a feeling the police department, as we start to create storage and have a better understanding of what we can do with the building, things that, are more equipment and equipment used for the vehicles that's it doesn't need to be secured because it's not evidence or anything like that. I could see them probably using some more storage down there as well.
Tires, some of the equipment they take out of the SUVs, some of the seats.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it. We did
stored
the
in the
tour.
second
There's stuff,
story.
and then they got stuff
mess.
down the highway garage that's you got to go up a little wooden ladder. Some of the tires that they store. It'd be a great place to get that on ground level. Get some of that equipment, prevent work injuries.
Are they talking about using the second floor for anything? Because my question on that would be, is it solid enough to support?
So the things that I'm listing right now of all really just first floor.
Okay.
If I were to move town records, I was thinking, and I know it came up when we toured the building, that how much weight can you actually place on the second floor?
Mr. Lynch?
But that would be the best. The second floor would be the best place for record storage.
There is, the second floor can take a lot of weight if it's stored in a good way. Okay, it doesn't have to be stored as high. You take it 2 or 3 feet and you separate it with aisles, you'll be fine. You got the carrying beams that you can work off as your storage comes on, and the outside wall is right there. It'll work.
Yeah,
It'll
you gotta
work.
know where those weight carrying beams are. And
I know where they are, every one of them.
And we know the historical society, they have a need to get things out of people's basements.
Yeah, they gotta get them out of that basement. Yeah, their basement over there,
Yeah.
it's filled with mold. They
The
need to
second-
move stuff out of there before it
Yeah.
gets ruined.
For storage of records, the second floor on that firehouse is your best move. Okay, getting them up there is going to be interesting. You'll get the police out and dry out theirs before we have to go through it. They have to be brought and set up for a while before. Okay, that can be done. There's not a lot, but it's just there.
yeah, we have to be careful. Someone mentioned to me that you need to be careful if we're going to be taking, just say records that could have mold or something on them.
You got to go through a process.
You start bringing those into this fire station building, we could introduce something we don't want to introduce to that building. There's some work to be done there. And so that brings up the thing that, at this point in time, for at least the next 12 months, I would recommend to the board that we not open up the building for storage for any outside agencies. I think we should stick to just town departments and town committees.
Well, Troy,
let's-
what
let's-
you got here, you won't have any room for.
Well,
it
I know,
anyway.
and I think
Well,
I know we've had,
It takes up all the bays.
we've had the, Boy Scouts come in and say they'd like to, I just don't know if we want to open that door yet. We don't have any management of.
I was going to say,
keys
though,
and
for
that kind of stuff.
insurance, Primex
Just-
may not let you.
That's what I would recommend at this point in time. And the other thing is, I think, and I've talked to the fire chief about, we need to understand when the building is no longer being managed 100% by the fire department and it's literally turned over to the Board of Selectmen. I talked to the fire chief and he's very comfortable with December 31st being a date that he will be 100% out. And the selectmen are responsible for managing the building. So anything that, when I say they're out, obviously the fire department's still gonna be able to store things there,
Ooh.
but it's gonna be under the control of the selectmen.
Okay. They don't have room in the new building for the boat?
As of right now, I think that they had that equipment there and things were,
It's in there
they were getting,
comfortably.
what's that?
The boat was there.
I believe it was there, but then I think that they started, things were getting a little tight and things were getting damaged and they just felt it was best to bring it back down to the old station. And I think actually, talking
Leaves
with
it
the
close
chief,
to the Merrimack too.
they'd like
They
to
don't
leave
put
it
it in
on
the
it.
river.
Leave it on the
Won't go in
trailer.
the river with it needed?
He said he doesn't put it in the river.
Um,
That boat doesn't go in the river, right?
Um,
They have a raft for that.
Yeah.
just, the selectmen are responsible for the buildings, period.
Regardless.
I mean, the
Well-
Board of Selectmen is responsible for all the buildings,
I
period.
understand that, but the fire department has been living and working out of that building. They've been managing it. So
Oh.
we really haven't been managing, but the
Correct.
fire chief's done. So if we have an issue with keys floating around and people having keys and people putting stuff into, it's going to be the Board of Selectmen's responsibility, not the fire chief.
I have a question
So-
on that.
Could-
Question of the keys and security. Right now, that's on a pod system, correct, John?
It is.
There's a
Is it
vote of
changeable?
confidence.
I can get it back up and running interchangeably, yes.
Security 101.
I would suggest not issuing keys, use that primary door and let that be the primary access.
So,
It does mean, it does mean we gotta we took all the technology out of that building, right? So if you're gonna now be concerned about this, about security, I have to get connectivity back into that building to get out of the building, right? So just think about it that way.
Yeah.
That's doable. It's not like it's not a huge cost.
Not big.
Yeah,
You don't have, what do you have, what do you mean? You don't have,
I would
cable?
think the only thing that's in there right now is 2 phone lines for the fire system.
That's it.
Yeah, so I had to bring cable back in, to connect it back to central so that we can get the feeds from it and then, be able to control the locks.
And well, once you got excessive electrical in there, take 1 meter right off the building because it's going to be downsized this storage.
Yeah, I've reached, we have an electrician that's going to be going through the building with Doug. And he's going to do an assessment, try to figure out what we can disconnect. And try to eliminate that 1 meter,
Okay.
consolidate everything into 1 meter, one meter.
Because your upstairs is not
I
going to
think
be
I know where some
cooking,
panels
refrigeration, all that's gone.
Load's gonna be way down.
Yeah, and your air conditioning, upstairs is going to disconnect. So you got service there. You'll be fine. The ventilators are gone, so it's just a septic pump.
We've only budgeted $800 for electricity for next year, so we gotta make sure we got everything turned off.
question,
You budget the gas.
Troy,
too,
if I make a motion, there's no need, if we allow you or authorize you to be the administrator, there's no need to put in the motion to ask the fire department that'll be your decision. We're authorizing you to administer that.
Yeah, you know what?
Is that okay?
There seemed to be a lot, I've heard some discussion from time to time about when's the fire department going to be out of there, this and that. And I just thought it'd be good that we have it on record. And I've talked to the chief. He's comfortable with that date.
That's fine.
Just trying to prevent that discussion from
Mhm.
occurring anymore.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint the town administrator responsible to oversee the management and maintenance of the old fire station building as a bathroom facility for LCTV employees and storage facility for town departments. And we ask the fire department to remove all the equipment, materials, tools from the building no later than December 31st.
We have a
this
motion
year,
by Mr. Lemay.
Unless authorized, unless approved by the Board of Selectmen.
We have a motion from Mr. Lemay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Larry. Any discussion?
I mean, the boat goes too. All the fire department equipment out?
No, that'll be up.
I'm just kidding.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0.
The boat's the hardest thing.
I left out the word, that word on purpose.
No,
I don't want any meetings or anything.
Next item on the agenda is nitrate easement, Romano's Restaurant. Mr. Brown.
So if you have noticed, Romano's Restaurant has started replacing their leach field. The project started off as a replacement in kind. It still is a replacement in kind. But one of the things that has happened is the state has determined that it doesn't meet the setback requirements for nitrate So it was kind of interesting. I think what's happened here is it's the project may have started and progressed to a point where all the approvals weren't in place. The project had to stop, and that's why you've seen it in the
It's almost
state
done.
that it's in. All everything's installed, all the pipes are in there. It's just not filled because the state has determined that they need a nitrate easement. And we are the abutter that they're looking to have a nitrate easement agreed to. It's a commercial system, and there's 75-foot setback for nitrate leaching. And we are the abutter. This is a very unusual situation. The designer has told me he's never seen a abutter classified as the owner of a road. It's usually always the abutter of property. But in this case, the state is still requiring an easement.
But they didn't before.
They didn't before, and I believe from what I've read through material, it looks like they maybe should have been required before. But for whatever reason, the state didn't require it.
That's the background. I'm a subsurface designer. And what happened here, the system was approved by this town and the state based off the state rules. It was sent to the state, approved, came back for construction. The guy came down and inspected it, signed it off to state inspector, like he always does. Okay, it's done. State did not pick up on the rule change on the nitrate because I'm thinking because it was just a road. They probably weren't thinking that you needed one for a road because there's leach fields along the side of the roads all over the place. There's a new guy who's doing the review. He's only 4-6 months up there. He's checking off stuff as he reads. He's new. So he picked this up that it was not signed off on at the time it was approved. And this is a repairing kind. It's an old oversight, new state guy, and this is what's there. And they've been waiting for a backfill. And we have to sign off an easement agreement, and that's about it.
In your opinion, there's
No issue.
I make a motion that we grant the easement as requested by Romanos.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lemire, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next item on the agenda is the
See operation plan?
emergency operation plan approval. Mr. Brown.
Hey, I know Chairman Weber has been part of the process. This summer, the fire department received a grant to help the town prepare and update our emergency management plan. The emergency operations plan, that is now complete. It just needs approval by the Board of Selectmen. It will go up to the state and be reviewed. It's possible it could get kicked back to us, but we're pretty confident that our contractor that we use to develop the plan has met all the criteria the state requires. So we just need on record that this has been approved by the board as part of the review process up in Concord.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire,
Second.
second by Mr. Schaefer. Any discussion?
This is just a review. This is just the old plan being re-reviewed again, right?
It's all
With a
been
little more
updated.
extensive.
It's
Been updated.
To the new
Yeah, it's on there.
standards.
it was updated, but it's really
State
fresh.
put some more stuff into it.
It's laid out nicely. It's good. It was a good process.
It was a good process.
You comfortable with it?
Very much, yeah.
Okay. Enough
They
for
did a
me.
good job.
I haven't read it. Yeah, it's too thick.
It's 118 pages.
I know, that's what I was wondering.
You might not be around that long.
No pictures either, Bob, so, you know.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
My sensitivity.
All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next item is the Capital Improvement Committee. Mr. Brown.
All right, real quick, back in 2014, there was a warrant article that actually authorized the Board of Selectmen to create a capital improvements a capital improvement committee. So that has been on record in 2014. The board recently, I know the budget committee Andrew Cutter had asked for the board to start to address the capital improvements committee, or capital improvements plan in our town. And so this is really, Chairman Weber has been communicating this with the budget committee and has made it a priority that we get this before you. This simply would, this motion that I prepared would establish the committee. It would represent one voting member from the Board of Selectmen, one school board member, one budget committee member, one planning board member, and one Litchfield resident. The town administrator would serve as a non-voting member for technical and administrative support. So the makeup can be however you wish. If you wanted to have 2 Litchfield residents, you could. I picked an odd number just for, voting.
To round out the committee.
And
And this goes directly back into what we've been doing with all the department tours with the budget committee. Now the budget committee is actually off touring with the school department. So with all the information we're getting, this will allow us to do the next 6 to 10 year plan on where we think capital improvement is going to need to be, so we can give the public visibility of what the town's needs will be.
So Troy, what are you gonna be doing? You won't have time for this.
well, it'd be, yeah, this, I'm hopeful that this process
I think it'd be
could be 6 to 8 months.
for a little more.
Maybe a little more, but definitely less than a year.
And didn't NRPC help us last
And
time?
we started working with National Regional Planning Commission on this, so some work has been done. And I will be consulting with them, to see if they can maybe play a little bit more of an active role. They prepared the last plan, which was 2009-14. It's a very professional plan, laid out really well. And they have the template for this. They give us the worksheets to spread around everyone, all the departments and committees. The committee job will be collecting all the requests and prioritizing the needs, over a 6-year period. With public, I'm sure the committee will have public input, a public
Certainly
input
will.
process before the plan is even adopted.
Yeah.
Well, my vision is that this plan will come back to the board, and typically you hold a public hearing to seek input on it, and eventually it's adopted.
I would like to make a motion. And the people have already voted on this, right? It's already been.
They authorize the Board of Selectmen to create it because
Okay.
without that vote, it's really the capital improvements plan is the responsibility of the planning board.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Lynch. I would like to make a motion to push this forward. As recommended amended, I move to establish a capital improvement committee in accordance with RSA 674:5 and the 2014 annual town meeting vote, which shall include one voting member from the Board of Selectmen, a school board, budget committee, planning board, and a Litchfield resident. Okay, and the town administrator to serve as a non-voting member for the technical and administrative support.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch,
Second?
second by Mr. Leary. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0. The next item on the agenda is the Health and Human Services. Due to a conflict of interest, I'm going to abstain from the discussion. So Vice Chair Selectman, if you could take over, that'd be great.
Vice Chair Select.
Vice Chair Schaefer, wow,
Wow.
it's been a long night.
Yeah, I thought I was falling asleep.
Gotcha.
Oh, I remember.
Go ahead, Troy. I'll let you take this
Which
one.
month is it?
Okay, so this goes back to the warrant article, March 2019, that appropriated $25,000 for health and human service agencies. And in that article, we actually laid out a committee that would be responsible for reviewing the request, the 2019 request, and coming back to the Board of Selectmen with a recommendation on how that would be paid out. The article specifically stated that the committee would consist of the general assistance administrator, the health officer, and one citizen at large. So we did, through social media, our website. We sent notice out to the citizens. We received 2 applications back of people that were interested. And we have Elizabeth Vaughn, who has expressed interest in serving on this, and also April Weber, who's expressed interest. So I'm not sure how the board how you're going to go about selecting, but I did reach out to NHMA to get some legal guidance, wondering if we could actually expand the membership of the committee. But because the warrant article was specifically written and identified the committee members, we don't have the authority to make any change to that. So I apologize. I should have written the warrant article as just a generic Health and Human Services Committee as appointed by the Board of Selectmen. I apologize.
Can we add to it down the road?
You would have to have a
Only
warrant
at town
article.
meeting.
You'd have to go
Warrant
back to
article.
town meeting and have a warrant article.
Okay.
Would there be a prohibition on putting one on as a regular member and one as an alternate? Non-voting?
I think that because the article actually
Specific.
specifically created,
Okay.
didn't mention any alternate, or ex officio. So,
Well, should we or you interview the candidates?
Can we make it as simple as drawing a name out of a hat? I mean, I hate to
you
be
could,
so
because
arbitrary.
I kind of need to get this committee going fast, because I've got 19 appropriations to determine, and then we got the 2020 appropriations that need to be determined.
I'd like to add something to this right off the bat, and I'm going to say the health officer is not really associated with human services and stuff like that. They're more environmental.
Yeah.
Okay? So they don't really fit in, okay, into that role. You don't get into that very much at all. At least I never have. Your welfare director, okay, which is who?
Me.
Okay.
But Kevin,
But we can't
warrant
change it
article
now.
specific.
I know, and
It has
that's,
to be the health officer.
okay,
We have to pick somebody.
Whether we like it or not,
it's
Doesn't matter
so,
who's
those
involved.
are on the article.
this was voted in last year, correct?
Right.
It's almost town meeting.
So we have to follow the will of the people.
That's right.
And we have 2 folks that stepped up and volunteered. We can only pick one. How do we go about doing it? We can either draw a name out of a hat. We can vet them somehow, which is going to prolong the whole process, which I don't know if that's the right thing to do.
When's the next meeting?
Well, that's we're going to discuss that later. I think they're both qualified individuals.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can go right or wrong with either one. And I think you pull a name out of a hat and see how it goes. And we can always invite the
We can
the
ask
other
Jen
person.
to pull it.
We can invite the other person is more than welcome to attend all of the meetings.
I've written both the names on equal pieces of paper.
Here's a hat.
Whoever had,
There you go.
I mean, I don't know how.
Be careful. I wore it.
Oof, I don't know if I want to reach into this thing.
Whose hat is
Um,
that? His?
The names are written on there already?
Yes. All right. So we have, and I'll show you this. April Weber.
Yep.
For one, and then the other is
This is set up already.
Elizabeth Vaughn.
Okay.
See. So anyway, I think that we need to just put them in a hat and have someone draw them.
Could we ask Jen to do it as a totally,
Sure.
huh?
Can we get
Do
her
you
a
mind?
rubber glove so she doesn't catch anything?
Yeah, you're gonna want to wash your hands after this.
Oh, come on.
April Weber.
Okay.
So, and just so you
You're
guys
not on
know,
that committee, you're
others
lucky.
Still said Elizabeth Vaughn. I'm not a magician.
No,
Okay.
no magical tricks.
I am
here?
not a magician.
Clean. Give it a break.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move to appoint April Weber as the voting member of the Human Services and Health Agencies Committee.
There's a motion,
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Larry. Any discussion?
Congratulations.
All right, well, we got to vote on it. All 4?
Aye.
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 Oh, against? Abstain? All right. Passes 401.
So we
There we
just
go.
put,
That's
we just
my
put
meeting.
Mr. Schaefer.
Troy to work as another committee and on the 2 committees already.
Okay.
Okay, the next is the PFAS Committee Representative, Mr. Brown.
PFAS committee. So this one, I was contacted by the Assistant Commissioner of DES. Apparently, there was a commission that was created to look into the impacts of PFAS statewide. And I know that our state representative, Ralph Baum, he's serving on this committee. He came in this summer and told me that he was our representative. But we also have another membership of just a general membership at large, Litchfield resident. So they've already had their first meeting. It was an organizational meeting, and there's another one that's scheduled on November 1st. I didn't know if there's any interest here on the board that would like to represent the town. If not, then we'll need to put some public notice out there and see if we can get a resident to be interested in serving on behalf of the citizens.
I would suggest that an affected resident be asked if they would like to do that, especially in that northern end of town, because we get to see this all the time anyway.
Mhm.
And if there is someone that has a real interest in it, that's been affected by it, I think it'd be an outstanding opportunity for them to get involved and to make a difference in this whole area.
Do we have a board
And then if
member
we're-
that's in that area that's affected?
We may have a couple. But a resident may be interested in serving. We get the opportunity all the time. They don't necessarily. And if nobody is interested, we'll have to come back and discuss it.
So if you could just put something out.
Yeah, I think we'll
reach out
just
like
do
we
the
did
same
last
thing we
time.
did with the Health and Human Services.
I'll bet you
Very
you'll find
effective
someone. There are
Facebook.
people that are passionate about that.
Hopefully by next meeting, we can address it so they don't miss any further meetings.
Right.
Okay, the next item is the purchase order approval for recreation field maintenance. Mr. Brown.
All right, so the Rec Commission advertised for the 2020 mowing and maintenance services. They've held a meeting, opened up the bids. They received 3 bids. Proscapes had submitted a bid for $45,000. Natticook Lawn and Landscape submitted a bid for $49,072.40. Their bid also included the installation of an irrigation system that's all labor and material at Jeff Lane at no cost. And TLC, the current contractor that's been providing services to the town, bid $59,700. The Rec Commission has recommended that we go, they have selected Natticook Lawn and Landscaping at $49,072.40. Because of the purchase amount here, it requires a purchase order, which is really the board's way of ratifying the award of this contract.
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself from discussion due to a professional relationship with one of the vendors.
Okay.
Okay.
Kurt, you're on the rec commission. Are any of these companies, Litchfield companies in town?
All 3 of them are.
All 3 of them are. Oh,
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
And I can give you a quick rundown.
Yeah.
Proscapes did not follow the parameters that we asked for on the, I love the number, but the number just doesn't quite, it didn't explain the whole story. He needed to break it down. For some reason, we wrote the RFP, so it was mowing and then maintenance.
Yep.
And maintenance being irrigation, fertilization and things like that. Proscapes did not break it down into 2 different parts. Natticook and TLC did. So right off the top, Proscapes unfortunately was taken off out of the running. Natticook Lawn, he did an extensive, and I mean extensive study into our properties, and He went to each field. Right now he's starting soil testing since he won the bid. But he did a huge proposal that was overlaid everything we needed for each field. Identified a lot of issues and identified some good things and some bad things. TLC submitted a proposal of stating that they were going to do pretty much everything they've been doing for the last last 4 years. They went from 50,000 to 59,700. But they didn't. It was almost kind of a. They just wrote it out, and it was a straight up estimate, pretty much a 2-page estimate. So Natticook was highly recommended by we highly recommend Natticook, and we voted for him.
Okay.
So
Who owns Natticook anyways? That's like the old farm that was there.
Brian Lane.
Brian Lane, Pam,
Oh, okay. All right.
Pam's fine.
Yep.
JD's old
Okay, yeah.
house.
So it is, yeah, it's the old.
Yeah,
Natticook farm. Yep.
Ryan's been in town for a long time,
Born and raised.
generations back, I guess.
Yep.
But again, he did a tremendous amount of homework, and he definitely deserved the bid.
All right. So you're comfortable.
Yes. Yep.
Good enough for me.
I'm glad what I heard tonight. Very good.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve purchase order 2020-1 in the amount of $49,072 for recreation field mowing and maintenance services as recommended by the Recreation Commission.
We have a motion by Mr. Larry,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstained?
Abstain.
Motion carries 401.
Oh, that was my first motion.
You did well.
Yeah, wow.
You did well, Bob.
See, you can do it again. It's very easy. See?
That's it. I'm done for the year.
Why are you turning red? Did you sweat through that one? Or?
It's nerve-wracking.
Yes, it's very
He's
nice.
tired.
I congratulate you, Bob.
Yeah, I worked at a very demanding homeowner's house today.
There you go.
It's been his own.
You had short ceilings, right?
Avatar reevaluation update agreement. Mr. Brown.
Okay, this is, as I have explained, we already have a contract with Avatar. Avatar does our assessing services on behalf of the Board of Selectmen. We have a 5-year contract. We've already contracted the 2020 revaluation update. But as a requirement of that update, DRA requires a contract specifically for the update. So they have prepared a contract, basically pulled out all the, language that's in our master contract and have put it in a format that's acceptable to DRA. We need to have that signed, approved, and sent up to the DRA for review and approval before we start the update work this spring.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve a contract with Avatar Associates of New England to perform the town's 2020 valuation update for amount not to exceed $91,500.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 500. Next item is municipal aid acceptance of $68,205.54.
We-
Mr. Brown.
Didn't we do this?
Yeah, so we
good.
kind of jumped out, we covered
Okay.
this, so I'll be scheduling.
Make a motion
public
to accept
hearing.
the aid.
Okay.
All right, next item is Darrah Pond Vegetation Survey.
What is this?
Mr. Brown.
So if you're interested, attached here is a proposal from Solitude Lake Management. They were the company, it was under a different name, but they were the company that did some work in our town a few years, 5-6 years ago. What they have done is, and they're under a tight time constraint here, we're kind of coming to the table late, but for $1,350, they would be able to conduct that assessment work that they need to do before they can prepare an action plan and a cost estimate to that action plan, which we need that estimate for that warrant article we discussed earlier.
So in other words, you need this before the pond
We
freezes.
need
huh?
this, yep, we need this before
Before
we
the pond
can.
freezes.
It looks like they'll do something in November and then
They
the
can
rest of
drill.
it in December.
So
They're gonna get right out there in the water and they're gonna do their survey, they're surveyed and then what we have. Maybe it's, and based on that, would dictate the treatment.
Again, if we have this, wow, we need to do
Well, there's
something.
other invasive weeds too. that-
Oh, I understand, and that, we have this, that's more
That's
than
the big
one.
one, yeah, that's the big one.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the town administrator to approve the 2019 vegetation survey contract with Solitude Lake Management for an amount not to exceed $1,350.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire.
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 500.
Can I do a painting survey contract for the town hall?
Oh, by the way, Bob, that was just my 25th seconding of motion, just to keep it.
This evening.
Yeah.
But who's counting?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's only my third.
Yes, you're right. Hey, we haven't voted your budget yet.
I wonder how many motions I.
You're bored. I know you're here.
Right. Brook Road.
The next item on the agenda is 25 Brook Road Drainage Project. Mr. Brown.
All right, so I think we're all familiar with this. Some of us have done a site visit. The residents have been in a few times, talked to the board. Lou Karen, who's the owner of LC Engineering, does primarily all the planning board engineering work, site plan review. He's been involved in this project, provided some assistance to the highway department. And as you see, he's put together a cost estimate of if we were going to install a catch basin and, a pipe that would get that water behind the two properties. But in my discussions with Mr. Karen, he informed me that he only did this as a sort of a big picture over, cost estimate for us. But he doesn't do any design work. He doesn't design anything anymore. So my thought was, we can't just go out there and start digging and deciding, put pipes here and there, that we really need the expertise of an engineer that would come out, do an assessment, maybe come up with a couple different options for the board to consider. And then depending on that, would put together the specifications of what the board decides they want to do. So all I'm doing this evening is sort of giving an update on this project because citizens could show up at any time and ask what's going on. But to get you something really solid and concrete to get you some direction as where you want to go. Because this work obviously is not going to be done this year, but we have line items in the operating budget of where we could, depending on the cost, where we could do some of this work next year. So I prepared a motion. Might be good to have it on record just because the general public has come in and has asked for the board to
Been
address
here a
this.
few times.
There's no financial bind to this. It's just a motion for you.
No,
guys to
engineering
address.
firms will put together a proposal for you at no cost.
Okay, so we'll vote on that later.
That's right.
Okay.
Hopefully there'll be a couple solutions. We can figure out which one we
Right,
think we
read
go
it.
with.
I think what you're going to get back is a proposal that will say, hey, we're going to go out, visit the site. We're going to do some preliminary surveying and we're going to come up with a couple different options. And that's going to cost you X amount.
Mhm.
And that's the only commitment you're going to make.
Okay.
If you pick something that really makes sense, then you'll pay more money to have them go out and do final surveying and design specs.
It's not gonna be a tough job. It's pretty flat.
It is.
It's flat. It is flat.
I think it's.
If you can get a pitch, you're done well.
I think it's going to be a challenge for an engineer to try to actually.
Yeah, the word flat.
Yeah.
I'll recommend the motion.
You can read it.
Okay, I move to authorize the town administrator and road agent to seek a proposal for the preliminary investigation and design work for a drainage improvement at 25 Brook Road.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Larry. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 500.
Troy, I can also, there are some smaller engineers who've done this work all over the place. If you need their names, just call me. Because, this is That's a tough grade.
The next is the resignation acceptance of John Reagan, ZBA member. Brown.
Yeah, Mr. Regan informed the board that he is going to be stepping down as a member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. I know he's been a great member of the board and very dedicated, so it's going to be a tough loss to the ZBA, but
I'd like to thank him for his years of service from the Board of Selectmen and hate to see him go.
The other day I saw him in his yard taking pictures of his
Is that
house.
your motion?
No,
He's
my
going,
comment.
he's going to the Cape.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion. I move to accept Mr. Reagan's resignation from the Zoning Board of Adjustment as a regular voting member and request the town administrator to send a thank you letter for his years of dedication and commitment as a volunteer appointed official for the town of Litchfield.
We have a motion by Mr. Schaefer,
Second.
second by Mr. Lemire. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0.
And guess who's coming back?
Thanks for your service to the town, Mr. Regan.
Yes,
Yep.
very much so. Next is the appointment of Gregory Lapine, ZBA member, term expiring 3/31/2020. Mr. Brown.
and Chairman Riley has informed me that he would like to have Mr. Lepine move from alternate up to full member to replace Mr. Regan's position.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
The seat never got cold.
Right.
Movement by Mr. Lemire, second by Mr. Schaefer. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, 8 Bixby Road update. Mr. Brown.
Okay, as the board's aware, about a week ago, I attended a mediation session with Mr. Campbell and our legal counsel in Peterborough, New Hampshire. There was a law firm up there that agreed to conduct the mediation services for free, no charge to either side. And that was the reason why the hearing was held in Peterborough.
That makes sense.
This was something that the courts had asked that it was actually required that we go through this process to try to resolve this matter once and for all. We were able to come to an agreement. All the parties at the table that day are in agreement. Final ratification is the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen. A quick summary of what we have decided or agreed to. So we would Mr. Campbell has agreed to put in a stockade fence in the front of the property and then a chain link fence around the other 3 sides. That would secure the whole property. And that would be installed by December 31st, 2019. We also get to approve, he would come forward with his plans and we get to approve before he spends time and money installing this fence. Is to move all the junk and debris by November 30th. And in the agreement, we sort of try to specify what is junk and what's not. That was an interesting exercise. He also is to remove the 1985 and the 1987 Plymouth vehicles from the property by November 30th. And he is to provide valid registrations for all the other vehicles on the property. Now, something I want the board to be aware of, that through this process, we have learned, maybe we're aware of this through the whole process, that 5 vehicles are considered antiques and are allowed to remain on that property.
Yep.
There's 2 other vehicles that he's allowed to have as long as they're fully registered. So he is only removing 2. So if this all ever, is resolved, I think that the general public out there thinks that all these vehicles are going to be removed from the property, and we don't have the right to require that.
You do not have that right.
You need to understand that. And one of the things, very clever, our legal counsel, I think she's been involved in these cases before. She made sure that we had a provision in there that no additional unregistered vehicles may be brought to the property, and we start this process all over again. So that was a nice addition that we had. And if Mr. Campbell complies with all of these conditions, the town would agree to waive all fees and penalties. And we also have a right to enter the property and inspect with notice. So we have the right to go on the property. So if the board agrees to this, Mr. Campbell will be notified. We proceed forward. We wait and see if he's in compliance with these specified deadlines.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion. A move to accept the mediated settlement agreement between the town of Litchfield and Peter Campbell as recommended by legal counsel.
We have a motion by Mr. Schaefer,
I second it.
second by Mr. Lynch. Any further discussion?
I like to add something to this. This is not unusual. This is common. We get a lot of old stuff. I've been through this, in this case, a lot, but in previous towns too. The 5 vehicles was not a surprise to me because they're collectibles, they're antiques. There's a question on whether or not he can move another antique on there is another question. Because antiques, you know. I've been caught with that myself. I'm just saying it out loud. Okay? But I agree. Let's go.
I think it's great that the town and he was able to work this out.
Yep.
Come to a good settlement. It's good for everybody.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next item, the abatement request of 15 Muscovy Drive. Mr. Brown.
All right, this is sort of an unfortunate situation. You know, I think the current practice of the board is that we're all aware that when people receive their tax bill, you have the right to file for an abatement or appeal the assessed value. And you have, each year you have until March 1st to file for that abatement, that appeal. If you miss that deadline, then, it's really the board's position normally is we don't go back. However, there has been a change in the law that does allow the Board of Selectmen, if there's a good cause, to actually go back retroactive. In this case, an interesting situation where the homeowner was assessed for a pool in 2014, 15, 16, and 17. The pool was not on his property. The pool was on the neighbor's property. And it wasn't discovered until, I guess, last year that this was the case. And the property owner, I think, has good reason to request an abatement for the taxes that were paid for this pool that did not exist. So the amount would be, what we've calculated is $797.76. There's no interest calculated in that. That would be pure reimbursement for the amount of money that was assessed.
Does the assessment get corrected for the neighbor?
So the assessment has been corrected. No, you can't.
Oh, no, I'm not asking to go.
No, go that way.
No.
But
All I'm
yes.
asking is it going forward?
Yes,
has it been?
this has been,
Oh, geez,
this has
I
been
know
corrected in
that.
2018, and it was caught in 18. So,
Okay.
yeah, so everything was up to date.
Who caught it?
Mr. Chairman, I move to
Homeowner.
grant a property tax abatement for the tax years 2014 through 2017 in an amount of $797.76, no interest, for incorrect tax assessment of a swimming pool.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0.
Well, we just did our alphabet.
Almost.
Wow.
Almost.
Next item, administrators report.
Leave it alone.
Mr. Brown.
All right.
Okay, thank you. No.
4 quick issues, I think. One, some of you are probably aware, but if not, just let you know, Donna has been out on a medical leave. It should be pretty short term. In fact, it's quite possible she could be back next week. But she has been out, and everything's good. But if you're around trying to call or in the office, you'll see that she's not here right now.
Can you wish her well for all of us?
I certainly will. Also, I'm aware that when the state dropped the standards from the PFOA standards from 70 parts per trillion down to 12, that apparently there is some now areas in town that wells are of concern. They're exceeding those levels, and there are residents that are apparently receiving bottled water. And St. Cobain, I'm sure, is going to be working with the state, and I'm sure the plan is going to be most likely either installing filtration system or extending water lines. I don't know, but you need to be aware that that it has expanded in our town. And I don't know the addresses specifically, but it has expanded. I think from what I understand, what is it?
Hopefully, Robin.
Yeah, that would be nice. Talent Hall, I received bad news. I checked in with the contractor to see how things were coming with the unit that they had ordered. They contacted the factory, and it looks like now it's not going to be shipped out until early December. So
Got some cold
that's
people.
getting a little too late for me. I'm going to have to work with the contractor and see what kind of provisions we make for temporary heat.
Yeah, can they provide temporary heat, something at a,
So
Is there one unit working?
what's that? Well, that's the
Units are
thing.
down?
I think one unit is working.
Okay, you can keep it going with one unit. I've done that. Okay, and you keep the electric heat in the bathroom, then all the area shut down.
I agree with you.
Okay,
If we have that one unit, we get that fired up and just generate enough heat.
you
Get
got
the
it.
electric baseboard heat going. Make sure the heat tape's working.
It is. It should be.
See what happens. But the only thing that makes me nervous was this manufacturing facility. They changed locations, and so they're telling us December now. Who knows if that date changes again? So
hopefully they'll want to ship it before year end, get it on their books.
We keep the fans on in there all the time to push the heat down. It'll work. It'll work.
And the last item is New Hampshire Municipal Association having their annual conference. We have the opportunity to delegate a voting member. And I believe, Brent, you've been that delegate for the past several years. And the board has no objection. I'd like to continue to have Brent serve as our.
As long as Brent would love to do that for us.
No, it's fine. I will be there and I'll be at the meeting. So I'd be happy to do that on behalf of the board.
Thank you.
And that's the only thing I have, I guess, the actual discussion about the next meeting dates later on.
Do that a little more. All right, next we have selectmen reports. Mr. Lynch.
I missed the planning board meeting, 2 of them, due to health, and I'm ready for the next one now.
Okay.
But every time I go, they don't want me to talk.
Mr. Schaefer.
As you found out, we awarded the landscaping contract for the ball fields next year to Natticook Landscaping. That was really it for the last rec meeting. That was last Tuesday.
Nothing from myself on conservation. Our next meeting is next Thursday. Mr. Lanier.
Nothing from Heritage Commission. They'll be meeting next month.
Mr. Larry.
Well, we're in the middle of the budget meeting, so we got another one Wednesday. It was
Been the busy
a
man.
lot of fun last week. Should be just as fun this week. Other than that,
We had no items removed from consent. We had no other business. Now, as a board, we need to make a decision. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 11th, but it's Veterans Day.
Yeah.
We can either meet or we can make a decision based off of what item agendas need to be addressed. And if we did not meet, the next meeting would be Monday, November 28th. What's the will?
November 28th, that's a Thursday. You mean November 25th?
25th.
Sorry.
What do we got to get done? And this is budget season for us.
So it would be the warrant articles on the 25th would be our drop dead date that we have to approve those.
We'd have to
warrant
act on that evening.
But are you comfortable with that? If we do
I'm
that?
very comfortable with it. And I think from the direction the board gave me tonight on the warrant articles, I should be able to clean them up. And
And if anything of urgency comes up between now and then, we can always have a special
We can have
meeting.
a special
meeting.
I don't have a problem with the 11th. We veterans work on Veterans Day. We're the only ones that do.
It's Labor Day for the veterans.
It's
I
Labor
will
Day.
be out of town, so
Yeah, I'll probably be. I'm out of town that weekend
Yeah,
for a hockey
okay.
tournament. So
All right, so why don't we say the next meeting will be November 25th, unless something comes up, and then we can have a special.
I like to
meeting.
say November 18th. This way, if we need another meeting before the end on the warrants, well, at least we have, if we meet 2 weeks in a row, that's not bad.
So we'll,
Well, why don't we call it if needed? If you
needed,
need
if needed, we
plan
can
for
do
the
the
25th.
18th.
We'll see if we need.
Use the 18th as a placeholder.
it.
Correct.
Sure.
It is a busy time of the year, and
That's what
something
I'm-
could come up with budget committee.
So let's just have that as a placeholder,
That's a
and
good
if
idea.
not, we'll have the official one on the 25th.
Because I'd rather have time to make decisions instead of rash decisions. Don't start.
Okay, we do have one other item, which will be a non-public session this evening. It will be under RSA 91A32A, promotion or compensation of an employee. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91A:32A.
Motion by Mr. Lemire,
I will second that.
second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call. Mr. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer.
Yes.
I'm yes. Mr. Lemire.
Yes.
Yes.
Hilarious. We are now in non-public. Thank you for watching, and everyone have a good evening.
We can't afford anymore.